Hi everyone, Dr. Esper here, and today I want to show you how I like to explain functions. So functions are a computing concept that are sometimes tricky to understand. Let's take this functions badge for example. This is the first badge in the functions category, and what it asks us to do is create this code here. So we have one main function. We know that it's a function for a couple reasons. One, it says the word function here at the top, but also it's the shape of this purple block with a little mouth so that you can put other blocks inside of it. And what this main function does is it calls perform command, creeper 1 and creeper 2. So it does three actions, perform command, creeper 1 and creeper 2, where creeper 1 is a function here that does a perform command, and creeper 2 is a function here that does a perform command. Now it's pretty handy that we named them creeper 1 and creeper 2, but you could name this Bob and Sally. That wouldn't be very useful though, because then you don't know what Bob and Sally do, and so if you were to look at this main function, it wouldn't be super clear. Another thing to notice is that creeper 1 and creeper 2 do the same thing. So they both summon a creeper. So instead, you could imagine just calling this creeper and calling it twice. Basically, a function is just a way of naming a bunch of actions so that you don't have to tell it to do it every time. So for example, if we wanted to perform the command where we summoned a creeper, a zombie, and a cow, and we wanted to call this summon creatures instead, then instead of having to say summon a creeper, summon a zombie, summon a cow multiple times, we would just have to call summon creatures as many times as we wanted to. So this would summon 3 creepers, 3 zombies, and 3 cows, because that's what summon creatures does. So another way that I like to explain this to my students is I like to explain it using the wiggle dance. So I'm going to show that to you now. So basically what this means is, let's say I have a wiggle dance, and the way that the wiggle dance works is you jump up, you spin around, you wiggle your hands, and you jump up again. Now, if I'm trying to teach that to you, it's pretty easy to understand. 4 steps: jump, turn, hands, jump. That's called the wiggle dance. And now if I ever said, do the wiggle dance, you would know exactly what to do. If instead I had to say, jump, spin, hands, jump, jump, spin, hands, jump, it would get really tiresome for me. And it would probably get confusing for you because you know what the wiggle dance is, and so you can easily do that small step. So again, if we have a lot of different kinds of functions, where we had one function that was summon creatures, and one function that was send messages, where instead of doing all of this, we wanted to send a message to our player. Let's see, and the message might be, so we'll send 3 messages. One will be gargle, that's for the zombie. One would be watch out, somebody's warning us. And one would just be moo, because there's a cow there. So we could easily summon some creatures, and then we can quickly send some messages. And so now you're starting to see why functions become important, because we're going to have the computer know how to do a bunch of different sets of actions. One where you're summoning creatures, one where you're sending messages. You could even have one when you're giving yourself things in your inventory. And your main function only has to know how to call these sets of actions. This is also really useful because if you ever have an error, then you know where to look. So if your cow is not being summoned, instead of having like all of this code inside of your main function, and you have to search through it all, well, maybe this isn't too hard because it's only 6 lines, but you could imagine something even more complicated. And your cow's not being summoned maybe because you did a lowercase c on accident. It would be much easier to look for it inside of your summon creatures function, because you know it'll be there, because that's where things are being summoned. So if something's not being summoned, you know it must be inside of your summon creatures function. So it focuses your energy when you're trying to debug. So those are a few reasons why functions are important. A way of explaining functions using that fun wiggle dance. I like to actually do the dance in front of my students because I just like to get up and have fun with them. But you can imagine telling them how to do this by showing them what we just did on the projector. You could even just kind of describe the wiggle dance to them or come up with your own examples.